Hello and welcome to Oregon State University's eCampus webinar for undergraduate admission financial aid. Today's webinar session we will be focusing specifically on undergraduate and postbac admission for the summer session, which begins on June 20th. Before we get into all the information, I do want to just share with everybody that we expect for the presentation to be about 20 minutes, and we're saving the last 40 minutes to answer questions. We'd like for you to go ahead and just type in any questions you have in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. And as we go through all of the information, we'll sift through those. If there's any questions that we're unable to answer during the time allotted, we will get back to you via email with the information that you gave us during registration. The last thing I want to share is that we do have text captions available, so you'll see the link on the screen now. It's likely that you'll have to copy and paste that into a new browser if you'd like to follow along with the live captions. And this webinar is being recorded, so we'll be sending the recorded version to you a couple of hours after the webinar ends. So if you have any issues with hearing us or anything, you'll get the webinar soon. Today's presenters are Colin Arnold with the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships, and myself, I'm Amy Feast. I work with eCampus Enrollment Services. I'll be hosting the webinar and I'll be talking to you all a little bit about the application process. The agenda today is actually pretty packed. We're going to talk about applying to Oregon State University, how do you know which application to choose, applying for financial aid and the types of aid that are available, as well as we'll talk a little bit about the cost of attendance and offer some additional resources for getting started with Oregon State's eCampus. And again, at the end of that, we'll have questions and answers. And one more time, we listed the text caption website here if that's something that you'd like to access now. I want to start just by telling you a little bit about Oregon State University. OSU is a regionally accredited institution. We have more than 30,000 students here. Our main campus is in Corvallis, Oregon, which is about an hour and a half south of Portland. We also have a campus in Newport, Oregon, as well as a campus in Bend, Oregon. Oregon State is a Research 1 institution. We are one of only 2 institutions in the country that are designated for the Land, Sea, Space, and Sun grant. And what that means is that we're doing a lot of research here on our campus, and our students are able to benefit from that research not only because the faculty that they're learning from are conducting the research, but also because that research is then talked about in our classes. We do have more than 40 degree programs online, as I mentioned earlier. Today we're going to be focusing on our undergraduate degree programs, which we have about 20 different options that are available to you through eCampus. The other thing I did want to share really quickly actually is eCampus is part of Oregon State University. It is a department within Oregon State University that offers online education. So eCampus is not a separate institution. We have the same accreditation as Oregon State. Our students receive the same diploma as the students who attend here on campus. eCampus simply is the department that assists faculty members in providing their courses and degree programs online, and also eCampus provides a number of student services for our distance students, for academic services as well as support services. One of the interesting things about Oregon State University is that we actually are on a quarter system here, and I think that's really important when we're talking about applying because you actually can start any term. You'll notice on the screen right now we have summer, fall, winter, and spring. So those dates that are correlated are for this next coming academic year, which begins on June 20th. One of the things that's different between a quarter system versus a semester system is that our classes are 11 weeks long. That includes finals week, instead of the 15-week semesters. So still, the traditional academic year is fall through spring, just like it is at a semester college. There's just 3 different terms within that period of time. Summer session is pretty unique because it actually offers different lengths of courses. You can see now on this screen there's actually 6 different sessions in summer. So technically, summer session does begin on June 20th. And there are courses that are 11 weeks long in session 1, 4 weeks long in sessions 2 and 4, And we have an 8-week session, which is session 3, and also the 3-week session of session 5. Session 6 is a 1-week session that just has a very couple minimal classes that are available. And if people are admitted into summer early, they can register for any classes during that period of time. But part of the reason that it's so important for us to share with you what the schedule looks like for summer is just because we do have a lot of students who are taking classes at accelerated rates. People decide to do that either to catch up a little bit with things they missed the year before, or maybe to kickstart their next academic term. But there's a lot of different options, and we do have a lot of students who are working with different time frames during this specific time of the year. I really want to jump into one of the main parts of our conversation today, which is the application process. So we're going to review really quickly some information on the application process. The process itself is fairly simple. You do go onto our website, which is oregonstate.edu/admissions. Go ahead and fill out the application online. It is only available online. We don't have any paper application for anybody to fill out. You would just complete it online, submit it online, and they will actually accept your application fee online as well. So for undergraduate and post-baccalaureate students, there's a $60 application fee. For students who are seeking non-degree admission, which means you're just wanting to take a couple of classes and not actually earn a whole degree with Oregon State University, it's a $30 application fee. And then you'll note at the bottom of this slide, we also have a separate process for returning students. For any of the students who have attended Oregon State University in the past, they're able to actually be readmitted through the Office of Admission. So they'll complete a form through the Office of the Registrar. You just complete a 1-page form, submit any transcripts from coursework you've done since you've been at Oregon State University, and then a $25 fee, and that basically reactivates your student account here. So the last thing that you would need to do is just submit any transcripts or alternate documentation, such as a GED, high school transcript, or test scores. And that's everything that you would need in order to have a complete application file for them to make a decision about. So we're going to go through a little bit more specifically about the application process. When you go to oregonstate.edu/admissions, in the top left corner, you'll notice a little tab that says Apply Now. We've tried to point to it here with an orange arrow, so I hope you guys can see where that's at. Once you select that Apply Now link at the top of the page, it's going to ask you immediately to determine your student type. So we'll review really briefly what those are. An undergraduate student is a student who's seeking their first 4-year degree. So an undergraduate student might be straight out of high school, or an undergraduate student might have a bunch of transfer credits or a couple of transfer credits. But either way, they're working towards that first 4-year degree. We also do have graduate level coursework here. I don't believe that anybody that's on this webinar today is looking for graduate, but we do offer both master's and doctorate level degrees on eCampus. International student, whether you're a graduate or undergraduate, there's a different process for international students as well. So you would select an international student if you were not a U.S. citizen or U.S. resident, permanent resident, excuse me. And then there's the non-degree application, which we just talked about a little bit, those folks who are just wanting to take a couple of classes, or the returning OSU student. So for most of the people who are attending the webinar today, you would want to select an undergraduate, even if you're a post-bac student, meaning that you've already had a undergraduate degree. Once you select that student type, right away they're going to ask you to create a login ID and PIN. There's in orange on the top left again, there's actually a link that says first-time users click here, and I get calls all of the time from people who miss that. But if you haven't completed an application with us in the past, you want to select first-time users, click here, create your login and your PIN, which it will walk you through the requirements of your login and PIN. But that is just a way that you can access your application securely. So you can save it for later if you're unable to complete it in one setting. And that login information will be helpful for you after you submit your application, because it will help you to track the process of your application as well. So you want to make sure that your login and PIN is something that you can easily remember. Once you've created your login and PIN, it's going to ask you right away to select the campus that you want to attend. As I mentioned, we have a campus in Bend and in Newport, and then our main campus here in Corvallis is inclusive of eCampus students. So if you're wanting to take your classes online, you'll select the main campus, and then it'll ask you right away to select whether your citizenship. So as I mentioned earlier, you would be considered a U.S. citizen if you are a permanent resident, a U.S. citizen, or if you're undocumented living in the U.S. You would select the international application if you are not a U.S. citizen or if you are not a permanent resident. And then that non-degree application is for folks who are not looking to complete a degree at this time but just want to take a few classes. Once you've selected your citizenship status, you're going to be asked to determine your student type. Now this is a big question that we get at eCampus a lot, is how do I know if I'm a first year or a transfer student? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the differences are. A first year is anybody who has completed less than 35 transferable credits, which is the equivalent to 23 semester credits. So that's a little bit less than a year of college. The first year student could be either straight out of high school or could have completed some college, but again, less than a full-time year. The transfer undergraduate student is somebody who's completed 36 or more transferable quarter credits. That's the equivalent of 24 semester credits. And again, that's a little bit less than a part-time or than a full-time year, but still this student is somebody who's maybe completed some school at a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution, or maybe has military credit. We do want for all of our transferable credits to be from a regionally accredited institution. So if any courses that were completed at an institution that is not regionally accredited, those credits actually won't be available for transfer, so you wouldn't want to count them into your transferable credit number. The other option that we have is for post-baccalaureate students. We have a lot of post-baccalaureate students here at Oregon State University, especially at eCampus. Post-baccalaureate students are people who have already obtained a 4-year bachelor degree from a regionally accredited college or university, but they are wanting to obtain another degree. So what happens oftentimes is that people want to change their career, and so they'll earn another bachelor's degree while still keeping that first 2 years of their first degree under their belt. That's what the post-baccalaureate is set up for. On a side note, after you've selected your student type, you're going to be taken to a screen that shows you all of these dates. And so a couple of things that I want to talk to you about with the dates is, as you already are aware, summer term is starting on June 20th, so the time for you to apply is now. You'll notice that the application deadline on our website says June 20th, but we ask that you give yourself 8 to 10 weeks to apply, because there's a couple of steps you'll have to take after you're admitted before you're able to register for classes. And I'll touch base more specifically on that a little bit later in the webinar. But we do want you to apply as soon as you know that you're ready to start school. And then for fall term, courses begin on September 21st, so you want to make sure that you are applying by the end of July in order to start for that fall term. You'll notice that the priority deadlines on our website was February 1st, so I want to address that right away. The priority deadline for applications is February 1st, and what that means is any applications that are received after February 1st are accepted on an as space is available basis. That doesn't usually impact our eCampus students because it's more designed for the on-campus students who are looking for housing here on campus. That's what they mean when they say a space is available. So even though the priority deadline for applying to the school has passed, we are still accepting applications. And the actual deadline to apply for fall term is August 24th. However, as I mentioned, we really would like for you to give yourself at least 8 weeks. So we ask that you apply now for summer and apply by the end of July for fall. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, sometimes students will apply for one term and then realize that they're not able to start that term. So it is possible for you to change your start term one time within the same academic year. So at the beginning of the webinar we showed you, we have summer, fall, winter, spring terms. So any term that you apply for, you can change it to one of those other terms just one time If you decide that you need to change it more than one time, they're actually going to ask you to reapply to the university. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at what time is going to fit with your schedule. So once you select all of those different options and get through the application, there's just a series of questions that they'll ask you online that you should be able to fill out pretty simply. You're going to need to also send in official transcripts. So we are looking for your high school transcripts. We're looking for any previous college, from whether it's military credits or regionally accredited institution, a community college, another four-year university. If you did receive a GED, or if you have any test scores that you would like to send in, such as your SAT or ACT, all of that information needs to be sent into the Office of Admissions. They'll go ahead and put that file with your application, and they'll make an admission decision about 3 to 5 weeks after you've submitted all of your information. So I know that I've said a few times we want you to give yourself at least 8 weeks to apply. Part of the reason for that is because when we're looking through all of your previously earned credits and all of your transcripts, it can take some time to put all of that together. So again, that 3 to 5 week time frame to make an admission decision is pretty average. Sometimes it will happen sooner, and I've seen it take a little bit longer, but 3 to 5 weeks is pretty standard. Another thing I do want to note here is a lot of times transfer students who have completed a couple of years of college will be curious about why they need to send in high school transcripts. Additionally, many of our eCampus students haven't been in high school for 10 to 20 years, so it seems kind of like a silly thing to ask for. But the Office of Admissions will want to look at your high school transcripts. Partially what they're looking for is they want to know whether or not you've met the foreign language requirement, or if those are classes that you'll need to take and pay for here at Oregon State University. So they're really trying to just get a better picture of the coursework that you've already done, even if it is 25 years old. It's still something that they want to see. Additionally, you will receive an email from the Office of Admissions if there's any other documentation that you need. So I do recommend for students, once they've submitted their application, to keep an eye out for any emails that they might get from the Office of Admissions. Check your spam folder, because they are automated emails. They're personalized with your information, but they are sent out and generated by an automatic system at the end of the night. So you just want to keep an eye on that. And you can always connect with the Office of Admissions if you have any questions about your application, the timing, or wanting to confirm that there's documentation there. So they've got a 1-800 number that's on the screen now, as well as their email. I found that they're very responsive to both of those ways of connecting with them. So we encourage you to keep in touch if you've got any questions. The next step, this is part of the reason that we ask you to give yourself a little bit more time than just the application deadlines. There's a few things that eCampus students need to make sure they're able to do between being admitted and actually registering for classes. One of those things is setting up an ONID, which is just your Oregon State University student account. It's essentially an email address, but it allows you to have access to all of your billing and account information, any emails, any communications from faculty. It's a pretty important part of being part of the university community here. There's also something called the ATD. You'll see this all over our website. It says pay your ATD, pay your ATD. What that means is advanced tuition deposit. The ATD is a deposit that you make on your first term of tuition. So it's a $200 deposit. It will come off of your first term tuition bill. So it's not an extra fee. It's not something that is likely to be waived either. We do sometimes waive the ATD for our military students, and it is possible for students to be eligible for an ATD waiver if they're depending on their effective family.
Oh, expected family.
Sorry, the expected contribution, which is related to a FAFSA application. So basically, students who have a financial need could maybe have the ATD waived. The other things that students need to do after they've set up their ONID and paid their ATD is we do have an online orientation that you can complete from your home. It takes about an hour to do the orientation. We don't ask you to come to campus and be participating in the START orientation that happens here in Corvallis. actually, we've had a couple of eCampus students come to the START orientation, and there's very little there that's applicable to them. So we do encourage you just to do the online orientation. Once you've done that, you'll have the opportunity to meet with your academic advisor, which is the person who's going to help you find the right pathway to get towards graduation and be able to help you find out if there's different classes you want to take specific to one career over another or things like that. So the ATD is something that can be confusing for people, so I just want to make sure that I'm very clear about what the ATD is. When you pay your ATD, that tells Oregon State University that you are confirming your intention to enroll in classes here. It is a deposit, not a fee, so you'll see that removed from your first tuition bill. If you do pay your ATD and you realize I can't actually start this term, I need to change my term, it will be refundable 3 weeks before the start of summer term. So June 20th is that start. If you need to change your start term, that 3 weeks you'll be able to get your ATD back if that's the case. And then the exemptions from the deposit are the two that I already mentioned. Definitely students who are in financial need can connect with the Office of Admissions to see if they can get their ATD waived. Usually it will automatically happen when you complete your FAFSA. And then the other thing would be any military students or military affiliated students. If you have any questions about your ATD, your application, or the documentation to send in, we really encourage you to connect with the Office of Admissions. And with that, we're going to shift gears a little bit to talk about what happens when you are here at Oregon State University. So we're going to start talking about the finances. Currently, the eCampus tuition for undergraduate courses is $280 per credit. And since our courses are usually 3 to 4 credits, we're looking at about $840 per class. There are some differential tuition rates for the undergraduate students. Both the College of Business and the College of Engineering, which is our computer science program, do have a differential credit. So you're going to want to check out the current tuition rates at ecampus.oregonstate.edu/SOC/tuition. There's a great tuition calculator on our website that we just put up maybe 4 weeks ago. So if you haven't been able to see that yet, I encourage you to go to the tuition section of our site and check that out. All of our eCampus students that are in those courses, though, are going to be the same. We don't have an in-state or out-of-state tuition that doesn't impact our eCampus students at all. And there are some additional fees that your tuition doesn't cover. So what those fees would be, really, would mostly be textbooks or any supplemental materials you're going to need for a specific class, as well as there is a $350 matriculation fee, which every single Oregon State University student pays during their first term. The matriculation fee is basically the cost of maintaining all of your transcripts in order and working towards that graduation. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colin to talk to you a little bit about financial aid.
Thanks, Amy. My name is Colin. I'm an advisor in the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. So I want to talk some about that process and hopefully get you some additional information. So to receive financial aid, you need to complete a FAFSA application. You need to be degree seeking and be enrolled at least part-time. For all students that meet those criteria, they'll be eligible for some form of financial aid. So to apply for financial aid, you're going to do the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. The website is www.fafsa.ed.gov. Please make sure you use that .ed.gov website. There is a .com out there that will try to charge you for something that you can do for free. The application that you'll be completing is the 2016-2017 FAFSA. The application is signed with the username and password, and both students and parents will have their own username and password. It will be using the prior year's tax information, which for the 2016-17 FAFSA means 2015 tax and wage information. The FAFSA will then generate what's called an EFC. That's an expected family contribution. That's used to determine need-based aid and is not an expectation that you would actually owe or pay that. OSU school code will be included on there, which is listed on the little sidebar, 003210. I feel like we have the best and easiest one to remember that exists out there. You will need to do the FAFSA each year, each academic year. Our priority deadline was February 28th, but please do not let that discourage you. You are absolutely still going to be eligible for aid, so get that FAFSA done. So what happens next? So OSU will review your financial aid application and will notify you if we need any additional documentation or any requirements. Those notifications are going to go out to your OSU student email. So as Amy said, it's really important to get that ONID set up. That is going to be our main communication point with our students. Students will also be notified via email when their aid package is available, and I know that's something that people are always looking forward to. All aid is awarded based on eligibility. So any remaining aid that would be offered to a student can come in the form of a Parent Plus loan for those students who are dependent, meaning they need their parent or guardian information on the FAFSA. For those, we may not have graduate students listening with us, but any student who is a graduate student would be eligible for a Graduate Plus loan. Post-baccalaureate students are not eligible for a Graduate Plus loan. Sometimes there's a little confusion with that. So what types of aid are available? So first and foremost are grants and scholarships. That is aid that does not have to be repaid. Most common forms of those are the federal Pell Grant and an eCampus scholarship, which comes from Oregon State University. There are two types of federal loans. They're the federal direct subsidized loan and the federal direct unsubsidized loan. The difference between the two loans is that the subsidized loan's interest is subsidized, and what that means is that it does not accrue interest while you are enrolled in school. So it's considered a need-based aid because it is getting that subsidy on it to keep that interest from accruing. So when you're awarded for financial aid, you will get that email notification, as I mentioned. And again, we're seeing that linear graph of our terms: summer, fall, winter, and spring. When a student is awarded for financial aid, the default is always going to be fall, winter, spring, and full-time enrollment. So when you are awarded and you go out to check your financial aid, it's going to ask you about your summer enrollment plans, and at that point would be when you put in the request that you plan to attend summer term or you would like financial aid, and we'll adjust it to include summer term for you in there with fall, winter, and spring. Really important, financial aid is always awarded based on full-time enrollment. If you plan to enroll less than full-time, you can still get aid, but it's really important that you notify us in advance so we can get that adjustment made. Over on the sidebar shows the breakdown of the different levels. Full-time is 12 or more, three-quarter time is 9 to 11, half-time is 6 to 8, and less than half-time is 5 or less. This is the same for both undergraduate and post-bac. I do want to note that any student, undergraduate or post-bac, that enrolled in 5 or less credits will not be eligible to receive federal loans. So here we'll see kind of a recap. FAFSA is available starting January 1st, so it has been up for a little while, but you can still get it done. And then really the most important thing is managing your account, keeping an eye on your ONID, your email, to stay in touch. And of course, you are more than welcome to follow up with us. Our phone number is there, as well as our email address. We're available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a phone call.
Awesome. Colin, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and open up to questions. Give me 1 second to see what type of questions we've already got in the queue. And actually, while we're looking at that, I'm going to go ahead, since our presentation went on a little bit longer than I had anticipated, I'm going to go ahead and put some additional resources here on the screen, and that's just there for everybody to take a look. I know that we don't have live links here, but this, hopefully you can write some things down or take a picture of the screen quickly if those are resources that you need. All right, so one of the questions says, I'm a post-bac. I've already applied, but I'm slightly worried about the math requirement. If I get accepted and need an additional math credit, can we take it through eCampus? So the response to that, there's a couple of things I want to talk about with that. There is actually an admissions requirement of math. So as long as you've met that admissions requirement with math, you're going to be fine. If that admissions requirement was not met, and the application is denied, you do have an opportunity to take math through Oregon State University eCampus. as a non-degree seeking student. I will be very honest though, those classes are small because they are very rigorous and they're pretty challenging, and so it can be hard to get into that class. If you need to make a math requirement for admissions, I would encourage you to check out a community college. You'll just want to work with your community college and with us here at eCampus to see what you can find out about whether or not that math class will fit the admissions requirement. So there's resources here. It's going to take a couple of phone calls from your end to make sure that you've connected with everybody that you need to. But again, if you've met the admission requirement for math, we do have math classes online. We have a lot of math classes online. So if it's part of your graduate program, or excuse me, your degree program, I'm sure you'll be able to get into that class. And then another person asked, is there any way to have admission fees waived? I believe that there's not really. Oh, I'm sorry. Colin is saying there is.
I don't know all of the requirements of it, but I am aware that there is a waiver to that. So that would be a good question to contact.
That's perfect. So
directly.
Yeah. So I would contact osuadmin@oregonstate.edu. That's their email address, or the 1-800 number that we have posted here. I'm not sure what the admission waiver policies would be, but I do know that those application fees are not refundable. So it is something to find out before you apply instead of something to wait for. I have another question. Somebody said, for post-bac students, do we still need to send in our high school or GED? And I think it's very likely that the Office of Admissions is going to want to still see your transcript from high school or your GED. It's not so much that they need to see that as an admissions requirement as it is that they need to know whether or not you've completed any of the course requirements that we have here for graduation. So you can work with the Office of Admissions directly with that question if there's an additional question or more context involved in that specific situation. Oh, and somebody said, nice tuition calculator. Thank you so much. We're really happy about that. And I guess that's another opportunity for me to share with everybody. We have a brand new tuition calculator. I do suggest for you to check it out. Somebody's asked if we can share the presentation afterward, and I will let you know that anybody who has registered for this webinar will be receiving a recording by the end of today. It's going out 2 hours after the webinar, so this is all being recorded. You can absolutely share it. We'll also have it posted on our YouTube channel. We have a webinar section of OSU eCampus YouTube channel, and so it'll be there. Once we are able to get the transcription shared with YouTube, we'll make that live, so that will happen by the end of the week. All right, so somebody's asking, can you please explain regional accreditation? Is a degree from OSU valid on a national level? So I'm going to share with you a little bit about regional accreditation. Regional accreditation is one type of accreditation that exists within the U.S. education system. There's other types of accreditation, such as national accreditation, or even smaller accreditation like AACSB accreditation or ABET accreditation. Those are accreditations that actually focus specifically on a program. Regional accreditation is designed for an entire institution. So an institution is regionally accredited because there are accrediting bodies that look at smaller regions within the nation, and they look at the rigor of the program, they look at what the graduates are doing, they look at the admissions policies, they look at how many people are admitted. It's a very, very complex system, but it basically is a way of knowing that your institution is kind of like peer-reviewed. All of these people who know what they're talking about in higher ed said, yes, they've met these standards, they are regionally accredited. Regional accreditation is really important to an institution because it defines whether or not you can offer your students federal aid. It also defines what kind of classes you can provide and what does that diploma actually mean. So OSU is a regionally accredited institution, and we accept credits from other regionally accredited institutions. We review them individually when we accept them. We don't just accept them because they're from a regionally accredited institution. So it's definitely something that's important to us, and absolutely is actually viewed around the world as having value with a regional accreditation. Here's a good question, Colin. It says, do you recommend applying for FAFSA prior to acceptance?
So for financial aid purposes, you can get your FAFSA done now. For us to start reviewing your financial aid file, you would have to have both a FAFSA on file with us and a pending admissions application. So just having that admissions application in with or without a decision on it will get us rolling. So you can absolutely get that FAFSA done in advance of doing the admissions application, and when they both sync up in the system, your financial aid file will move forward.
Thank you. There's a question here that says, how do you base admissions information on the post-bac and computer science degree program? Are there limited spaces? Admissions here at Oregon State University, as of right now, there's not limited spaces in computer science, but it's not impossible for a program to become impacted and have that have an effect on how many students are allowed into the program. That's not currently the case with the computer science degree program, so you want to review the admissions requirements that are on the website. You want to make sure that you get in all of the requested documentation by the deadlines that the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science has designated on their website in order to be admitted to the program. Sometimes the program is really big, and so I know that there are some times where somebody will want to start in a certain term and maybe their information is getting in late. So I've seen the advisors say, you know, it might be a better idea for you to start next term just so we can get everything set up for your success. That's a possibility. But again, the program is not currently impacted. There isn't necessarily limited spaces on being admitted into the program. It's just a matter of having everything in on time for it to be reviewed and loaded and processed and everywhere that it needs to be. Okay. Oh shoot, somebody's letting me know that they didn't have audio. I apologize for that, and I will get, hopefully when you get the recording, that's not going to be a problem. I have another question here that says, the last time I attended university was over 10 years ago. Will that affect my admissions? If I was working in 2015 and my FAFSA will be reflecting that, is there any way I could still receive help if I'm no longer working? So there's two questions here. The first question is about not having attended college in over 10 years and how will that impact admissions. So we do have a GPA requirement, and regardless of how long ago any of our applicants have been part of a university system or gone to college, we're going to look at your GPA, we're going to look at the classes that you've taken. Regionally accredited college credits never expire, so we are still going to take that into account when we're looking at your application. But it actually just, the fact that it was 10 years ago doesn't impact the application process, I think, as much as people might anticipate that it would. We do have some programs that will say if you have a math class over 5 years old or 3 years old, we want you to retake it because that's something that is likely going to be required in order to be successful in future math classes. But as far as the application goes, that shouldn't be a problem. And this other question is something that we do get a lot, Colin. I'm hoping you can help to shed some light on this. If somebody was working last year and that's the information they put on their FAFSA, how does that impact their aid for the next year?
So what will happen is you will still file your FAFSA with that 2015 information because it's what is true for that year. So you'll file it. We do actually have an appeal process for those students who have lost wages or some other very specific things. What will happen is first you will be awarded for financial aid based off the information on the FAFSA, and then you can contact our office to speak with an advisor directly regarding your special situation. We start accepting the appeals for special circumstances, what we call them, beginning May 1st, but you will need to be packaged for financial aid prior to an appeal being reviewed or accepted.
Thank you. This is a really great question that I actually get a lot, and I don't know very much about this. Colin, how do post-baccalaureate students apply for scholarships?
So post-baccalaureate student scholarships, unfortunately, are limited. The eCampus grant will come is a grant and not a scholarship, so that will come out of our office. My best advice on the scholarship search is to just keep at it and really review what you can find. There are a plethora of places to find scholarships out on the web. In your local community is really where I encourage students to start. And some will have specification for undergraduate or graduate or post-bac. A lot of them don't, and a lot of students, you know, will maybe bypass a lower scholarship that's, say, $500. But if you think about how many hours you have to work to earn $500, it's usually worth the time to put the scholarship in.
Thank you. This is a great question. Somebody's asking if I could please, again, describe the process of setting up the ONID, which is your Oregon State University ID account. I'm actually going to hold off on that. I wanted to share with everybody that there are some steps that you have to take after you are admitted to the university in order to register for classes. But one of the really great things that happens is once you're admitted, you'll receive emails from us, from eCampus, and from the Office of Admissions that direct you in your next steps. So every step along the way, when you're admitted to eCampus, you're going to be receiving information from us to help you get to the next step. And we'll send to you the links that you need to set up your ONID account. You'll need information from your accepted letter, your acceptance letter, in order to set up your ONID. So if you haven't been accepted yet, that's not something you'd be able to set up. But all of that information is going to be there along the way. We have a really great group of people here at eCampus that are working all the time to support our distant students and to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to take their next steps and help them navigate through what those systems look like. So again, instead of helping to explain what that process is like, I'm just going to encourage you that you're going to be hearing from us once you're accepted, as well as you always can reach out to us if you're not hearing from us what you're thinking that you should be. We're really happy to connect with all of our students. This is a question about FAFSA again, Colin. Somebody's curious about, because they already have a FAFSA completed with another school for this academic year, but if they transfer later in the year, will they be able to switch out their FAFSA or apply again in order for it to be at OSU?
Okay, so that's a great question. I want to make sure, you know, there are currently 2 FAFSA applications that are open. The current one is 15-16 for that academic year that we're currently in, and the 16-17 one. You'd obviously need to make sure you have a 16-17 one on file. Now, if you are attending another university or college, say for their summer or fall semester, and you intend to come to Oregon State later, you can absolutely do that. You just need to make sure that OSU's school code is on that FAFSA so that we can get your FAFSA information and award you for financial aid. It's also important to note that there are annual limits to the amount of aid a student can receive. So if you were attending part of the year at one school and you received some financial aid there, then obviously that would be taken into account into what we could give you here at OSU. And any of that pending or remaining financial aid that you would have technically received at that other school would need to be canceled before we'd be able to give you aid here as well.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a great question. Somebody's curious about how can I tell what of my previous credits may transfer to Oregon State University. There is actually, we have a tool. If you're on our website, ecampus.oregonstate.edu, there's a whole section that says, it's called Before You Apply, and you can access it in the right-hand navigation. In that section of our website, there is a big button that says Transfer Credits, and it will give you access to articulation agreements we have with Oregon State schools. We have agreements with community colleges in Oregon, as well as some in Washington, California, and Hawaii. And then there's also something called the Transfer Course Search Tool. It's a really, really cool thing that is available. It looks a little bit old-fashioned, so I just want to warn you about that right away, because people get in it and think, oh, I don't want to do this. But it's pretty simple. There's a series of drop-down menus that you select to find the college that you've attended. You can select all of the courses that you've taken in that college and hit a button to generate a report, and it'll tell you what do we accept and what have we not accepted in the past. So if you're in that tool and you're not able to find classes that you've taken, it doesn't mean that we don't accept them. What it means is that we haven't reviewed it And so when you send us your transcripts, that'll be the first time that we'll be reviewing that course, and we'll have to make a decision for you specifically. So there's not any way to ever know of 100% of the classes that you've taken in the past will transfer over until after the application process is complete and you're ready to register. But you do get to find out a really good idea, and we will tell you what we've accepted from other students and what we haven't accepted from other students. Again, the one exception to that is if you have attended an Oregon State community college, then it's pretty likely that you'll be able to find all of that coursework and exactly how it transfers. Okay. So I have a couple of questions here about whether or not high school records are going to be required for students who have either studied abroad or been in college for a few years or haven't been in high school for a few years. And what we're finding is that the Office of Admission is asking everybody for their high school transcripts. Again, the purpose of doing that is to help them with their future curriculum planning. Depending on the amount of college coursework that's transferable into Oregon State University, they may look at your high school performance or not, depending again on if you're a freshman or a transfer student. So we just encourage you to send the paperwork in, because if you don't send it in, it's going to just take more time for them to ask you for it and then to have to go find it. Whereas if you just plan on sending it in with your application, everything's going to go a lot faster for you. I've got a question here about the eCampus scholarship. This person's wondering, how do they apply for the eCampus scholarship?
So it's actually an eCampus grant, which is different than a scholarship, but there's actually no separate application other than getting that FAFSA into us. Then students are reviewed as the applications come in and as the funding is available, and it would be placed on your award letter. So at the time you're awarded financially, you would know if we were able to give you that grant money or not.
Thank you. This is interesting. There's a little note in here that says people should check out grant funding from workforce centers if they haven't been employed for some time. Oftentimes they'll have grant for career changes. Colin, can you share with us, do you have any resources where people might be able to look for third-party scholarships and grants?
Not really. Unfortunately, okay. It's not something we really have the staffing to accomplish, unfortunately.
Thank you so much. I do want to point out, Colin had mentioned earlier that there are websites out there such as FAFSA.com that are maybe going to charge fees for things that you can do for free on your own. What I've noticed with scholarship and grants is there are definitely scholarships and grants out there that are beyond what we've mentioned in our webinar today. I do encourage students to look up studentaid.ed.gov and see if they can find opportunities there. But I also just think it's very important to let applicants know that there are websites out there that are unfortunately trying to take advantage of people who are trying to do the right thing. So when you're applying for scholarships and grants online, it's really important that you do your research and make sure that you're not just sharing your personal information with any predatory sites. If you ever have questions about those, again, I think studentaid.ed.gov is a great resource to just check against what opportunities are out there.
I would also mention on that, especially with scholarships and grants, if they're asking you to pay to apply, I would discourage you from doing that. And also if they're asking for your social security number as part of the application, unless maybe it's from your specific state and you know it's a trusted agency, I would also discourage that. If you were awarded a scholarship and then they're asking for your social security number, that is okay, but I'm always cautious if it's asked for up front.
Thank you. That's a great note. Okay, we've got another question here about how do we get transcripts to the Office of Admissions. There are a number of ways you can get your transcripts over to our Office of Admissions. You can mail in unopened, so sealed, transcripts to, via snail mail, as they say. There's also electronic. You can ask your school to electronically send the transcripts directly to our school, and all that information is on our admissions website. So I encourage you to go there and make sure that you have the right information, but there isn't only one way to do it. There's a lot of options that you have to get the transcripts to the right place. Okay. Now, I've got a few more questions here, but many of them seem to be specific to context, so I'm not going to address all those questions. I'm going to go ahead and get back to you each individually if I haven't talked about your response yet. Just looking through here to make sure there's nothing else. If there's any other burning questions that you have, please do type them into that question box. Somebody's asking about the majors that are available at eCampus, and I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and go to our website, ecampus.oregonstate.edu, and select the Degrees and Programs button. We do have over 43 majors on eCampus, and as I mentioned, about 20 of those are undergraduate majors. We do have an undecided major, which is really great. It gives you an opportunity to take a few classes while you're deciding between the other majors. While you're doing that, you'll also have access to advisors who can help you narrow down your choices. So a lot of times with our fisheries and wildlife, environmental sciences, and natural resources students, they're not really sure which major they want. So university exploratory studies is a great opportunity to try to get some of those science classes under your belt while you're still trying to figure out what you want your diploma to say. Here's a question I don't think we actually did get to, and it's somebody's curious about, for the 2016-17 academic year, what tax year are they looking at?
So for 2016-17 FAFSA, you would be using the 2015 tax year data, wage information from 2015. So hopefully now, since tax day was yesterday, everyone has those taxes done, so when you go in to fill out your FAFSA, you can put in the exact information and won't need to make estimates.
Thank you so much. Okay, we do have a great question here also about sending in transcript information. Somebody's wondering whether or not we can just connect with the school directly to get those transcripts. And the answer is we cannot. It is actually up to the applicant to go ahead and ask their school to get the transcripts to us. That information is protected, essentially, so we can't just ask for that on your behalf. It is something that you need to go ahead and give your current or previous institution permission to send to us, or ask for them to send it to you so that you can send it to us. Okay, and now we've got one other question that I wanted to get to is just somebody must have missed us talking about the application fees, so I want to review that really quickly. For undergraduates, the application fee is $60. If you're a non-degree seeking student, that's going to be $30. Graduate and graduate international students have much different application fees. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to go to our website and just check out the application fees there. All right. It looks like we don't have any more questions coming in. Colin, thank you so much for being here with me today, and thank you everybody for attending our webinar for summer admission and financial aid.
Thank you.
Bye.